My name is Lawrence Laddie, also known as Mr. International, host of Financial Independence with Small Multifamily Investing. I'm here located in the Bronx, New York. I have property here in the Bronx. I'm also going to scale my business up some more. So my other areas of focus is Huntsville, Alabama, Norfolk, Virginia, and the Piedmont Triad area. And also, of course, NYC. Why not, right? My guest tonight is Reneika Lightbourne. I met Reneika last year at my mastermind dinner, and she is a ray of sunshine. She has a lot of information. She's going to talk to us tonight and educate us tonight on how to use your IRA to invest in real estate and other assets, right? So Reneika, thank you for coming on tonight, taking time from yourself and from your family. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Lawrence. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate you hosting this event and obviously allowing Advanta to participate. But also too, it's really good to see a lot of people, that's, actively engaged in investing in real estate, but also too, having heard that, a few of you are familiar with self-directing, actively use self-directing. That's really, really wonderful to hear. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know if you can see that. If you have questions as we go, definitely you can, feel free to interject. I can answer as I go, but we'll definitely allocate some time at the end to answer any additional questions. So like Lawrence mentioned, we're going to be talking about using self-directed IRAs to invest in real estate. So again, my name is Reneika Lightbourne. I'm a business development specialist with Advanta IRA. I've been with Advanta as an employee since 2019. But I'm also a client of Advanta prior to joining staff. So self-directing is something that I actively do and passionately, very passionate about. Real estate actually happened to be my first investment that I did in my retirement account. If you have any specific questions you want to talk about your scenario, definitely feel free to send me an email, give me a call, or visit us at advantaira.com to schedule a consultation. So just a little housekeeping before we get going. Just know that Advanta, we don't give any tax, legal, or investment advice. All of the information that I'm going to present today is just more so educational purposes. Like you're already familiar with, as real estate investors, due diligence. You want to do the same thing when it comes to your retirement account. So confer with your professional team, your CPAs, your attorneys before making any investment. So just a little history about Advanta and who we are. We are one of the leading self-directed IRA administrators in the business. We've been in business for nearly 20 years. Our headquarters is in Largo, Florida, which is the general Tampa Bay area. Advanta is also in Atlanta, which is where I'm based, which is where I met Lawrence and his team. Advanta, we have a little over $2 billion under our administration, as we do work with clients nationwide. And one of the ways we really set ourselves apart is by when we work with our clients is providing them that concierge style service where you have a dedicated account manager that's going to be with you for the life of your account with us. So when you're ready to make an investment, you know exactly who to reach out to be able to assist you with that process. And then of course, our educational content. We do joint educational speaking events like tonight. We also host a lot of events as well. So if self-directing is a brand new concept for you, it may be a lot of information all at once. I just want you to just, very simply take away three key things. First and foremost, know that any IRA or former employer plan qualifies. With self-directing, you're always in control, so you choose the investment that works best for you. Obviously, as real estate investors, that's your preferred strategy. And then, of course, knowing that all of the income that's generated from that investment flows back into the retirement account. If there's any expenses associated with that investment, it'll be paid out of the IRA. And I'll give you some examples of what that looks like. So again, if you've never heard of self-directed, the main reason is because most IRAs we know are held with the large banks and traditional brokerage firms. Their business model is stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But in reality, the IRS said that, hey, you can actually use your retirement funds to invest in a long list of different things, which includes real estate, and I'll touch on that. Self-directing itself has been around for a very long time. It's been around since the 70s. It's obviously grown in popularity, and us at Advanta, we're doing our part to help educate the general public to to add this as an additional tool in the toolbox. So exactly what is a self-directed IRA? Very simply, self-directed IRA just means that you as the account owner, you get to use your qualified retirement accounts to invest in what is it that you know best. Whether it's real estate, you have complete control over the retirement funds, you have control over the investment decisions, but also it allows you to really diversify and build retirement wealth. So whether it's that small multifamily unit or it's a fix and flip project, you can certainly also use IRA funds to invest in notes and mortgages, precious metals. The list goes on and on. I'll touch on some of the few restrictions, but just know that when it comes to self-directing, you essentially have a blank canvas. So why do people choose to self-direct? You may look to self-direct for any number or combination of reasons. One, it can be a new source of capital for you. So I heard a couple syndicators on the call. A lot of times syndicators use this as a way to raise capital for the next project. For individual investors, if you have an old 401k that's just sitting idle, or you have money that's in an IRA, you can elect to move those funds over into a self-directed account with us at Advanta to make that next investment. You don't have to tap into your personal savings or take out a bank loan. You can put those funds to work for you. Another reason as to why someone may choose to self-direct is because of the volatility in the stock market, the ups and downs. Something can be happening, like a global event can be happening that impacts the stock market here in the US. Whereas with real estate, we know it always retains some value. People are always going to need some place to live. So again, a lot of investors like to purchase real estate in the IRA because of that safety net. It's a tangible asset. And then of course, the tax benefits, having those rents, those profits, those dividends flow back into your retirement account, tax deferred or tax free, depending on the type of account that you have. In terms of the different types of accounts that can be self-directed, it's the accounts that you're already familiar with. For individuals, it's a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. A traditional being, it's tax deferred, you get the tax break up front, you grow it over time. Once you reach retirement, that's when you pay taxes. Whereas with a Roth IRA, you're electing to pay taxes up front, grow the account. As long as you've had that Roth account for 5 years and you're 59 and a half, when you take it out, you pay no taxes. If you are self-employed, you have a small business or a side business, you can look to self-direct a simple or solo 401k, or sometimes you may hear it referred to as an individual K. A lot of real estate investors like the solo 401k because the high contribution limits, because you have greater flexibility. And I'll talk about the contribution limits and some of the options specifically with solo 401k. Some lesser accounts that you can also pair with or self-direct include educational savings accounts that you can open up for your children, or HSA to cover medical related expenses. As long as you have a high deductible plan with an HSA, you'll be able to have that HSA account, and you can certainly look to self-direct. Any former employer plan, like whether it's an old 401k or 403b or TSP type plan, you can self-direct those funds as well. The only restriction typically is if it's a current employer and you're not 59 and a half, most times that employer would prevent you from moving it. You can certainly inquire to see if they'll make an exception. But if it's a former employer plan, you can move it at will. The key thing to remember here is the contribution limits varies between the different account types. And then of course, a Roth, the distribution is tax-free at retirement. For contributions for 2022, if you have a traditional Roth IRA, if you're under the age of 50, you can put in $6,000 a year. If you're over the age of 50, you have an additional $1,000 catch-up. For SEP IRAs, you can put up to 25% of your earned income, not to exceed $61,000. With a simple IRA, you have the employee-employer match where you're putting in $14,000. The employer can match up to 3%. With a solo 401k, and you're self-employed, you own your own business, you get to contribute as the employee and the employer, where you can possibly put up to $61,000 if you're under the age of 50, or $67,500 for 2022 if you're over the age of 50. For ESA's account, you can put in $2,000 per year per child. I was actually working with a grandfather, and he's looking to open up 10 ESAs for his grandkids. So he can put in $2,000 a year for each of his grandkids. For HSAs, as long as you have a high deductible plan, you want to confer with your plan provider on that. But for individuals, you can put in $3,650. For family plans, you can put in $7,300. If you're over the age of 55 for an HSA, then you have an additional $1,000 that you can catch up. So in addition to funding your account by putting in, your annual cash contribution, you can also fund it by transferring from an existing IRA or doing a direct rollover from a former employer plan. Both are tax-free movement of money, meaning there's no tax liabilities for you to do that. In a direct rollover scenario, you would actually have to initiate that request. You fill out our paperwork, we'll tell you exactly the verbiage and the address of where the former employer plan should send the funds. If it's an IRA, Advanta will actually submit that request on your behalf to the other IRA custodian. You just want to make sure whatever dollar amount that you want to move, and it's, it doesn't have to be the complete account, it can be a partial amount. But whatever dollar amount you decide you want to move over, you want to make sure that it's liquid. So if it's tied up in a stock or a bond, you would actually have to sell that because it can only come over to us in cash. Okay, just bear with me one second. So when it comes to just looking further specifically at real estate related assets, whether you're looking to buy that that duplex or that triplex in your local area, you can certainly do short-term rentals, or you can do invest in commercial projects, whether it's a storage unit or industrial space. You can do fix and flip opportunities in your IRA, or you can certainly JV and work with other investors to buy land. We work with Advanta. We work with a lot of syndicators that are looking to raise capital or assist their clients in using their funds to go out and buy large apartment complex. If you're a passive investor or you don't want to deal with the physical, tangible real estate, you can certainly be a paper investor or a note investor by investing in notes and mortgages or tax liens or tax deeds. You can do unsecured notes in your IRA. Obviously, there's risk with every investment. With unsecured notes, just know that there's greater risk, so be mindful of that. You can do option contracts. You can do assignments. So I think someone mentioned that they're a wholesaler. So you can do wholesale deals within your IRA. You just want to be mindful of, how many wholesale transactions that you do, but that is an option. That's a great way to start off if you have a smaller account. When I'm talking to clients, I tell them it doesn't matter if you're starting with $1 or $1 million, just start. But let's just say you're, putting in $6,000, starting brand new, putting in $6,000, you do a wholesale transaction. Well, you can start with with a smaller amount to grow that account over time. So when it comes to self-directing, again, it's near limitless in terms of what's on the table for you in terms of your investment strategy. The only restriction that the IRS has in place is, in terms of prohibited investments, or your IRA cannot invest in life insurance or collectibles. Collectibles being anything like antique art, wine, stamps, anything of that nature. And then also S-Corps, but that's more so to do with S-Corps. So those are the only two investments the IRS say that your IRA cannot invest in. That's pretty straightforward. The other restriction that the IRS has in place, and this is typically where we get most of our questions, it's who the IRA or a solo 401k is not allowed to transact with, and it's not allowed to transact with someone who's considered a disqualified person. A disqualified person in this case would be you as the account owner, your spouse, any lineal ascendants or descendants, meaning parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, any spouses of your children or grandchildren, but also any business or entity that's owned or controlled by a disqualified person. To keep it very simple, I just mean that the IRA cannot be on the opposite side of the table from someone who's considered disqualified. Example, if you own, a duplex today personally, whether it's in your name or your business name, you can't sell it to your IRA, or you can't take money from your IRA and lend it to your spouse or lend it to your child. Or if your IRA owns a rental property, you can't lease it out to your parent or your spouse or your grandchild. So those are the few restrictions. Just think opposite side of the table. The IRS, however, do allow the IRA to partner with anyone. That includes yourself, that includes, your spouse or any other disqualified person, meaning as long as you can show that you're on the same side of the table, with your IRA, then it's perfectly fine. An example, 123 Main Street's out there. If you put in money personally and then your IRA put in money to buy that, it's perfectly fine because you're both sitting on the same side of the table as buyers. And I'll give you an example of that. I do want to circle back and touch on sometime you may, specifically UDFI tax. There's UBIT, unrelated business income tax. I know sometimes it comes up a lot with syndicators when they're doing their deals. Anytime there's any tax related questions you want to confer with your CPA or tax professional. But I want to touch on UDFI, unrelated debt finance income tax, specifically for real estate investors. And I'll give you an example in an IRA and in a solo 401k, and why in a solo 401k real estate investors like it. So unrelated debt finance income tax. Let's just say you have an IRA, and you can have as much money as possible, but let's just say you don't want to tie up all of your money into one deal. You want to use loan, you want to use leverage, you can. Just the loan type itself has to be a non-recourse loan. Non-recourse just means that you can't personally guarantee that loan. You own your retirement account, absolutely. You control it, yes, but you do have to think of your retirement account as its own separate person, its own separate entity. So again, you can't personally guarantee. Let's just say 123 Main Street's out there for 100,000. You're going to put down 30,000 as a down payment from the IRA. And you're going to take out a non-recourse loan for the remaining 30,000. You're going to fix that property up and sell it, or you'll rent it out perfectly, whatever your strategy is. 30% of the profits is going to flow back into that IRA without any tax liabilities, because that's the amount that the IRA originally put down. However, the amount that was leveraged in this scenario at 70%, that's going to be subject to what's called UDFI tax, unrelated debt finance income tax. Obviously, as you repay that loan, that UDFI tax goes away. You want to talk with your CPA just to see if they have any strategies to kind of help minimize that. And a solo 401k, same example. Property's 100,000. You're going to put down 30,000 as a down payment from this solo 401k. You're going to take out a non-recourse loan for the remaining 70,000. You fix the property up and you sell it. 100% of the profits flow back into the solo 401k without being subject to UDFI tax. And that's again a very powerful strategy that a lot of investors like or take advantage of. So moving right along, we've all heard the adage, your network equals your net worth. Well, same thing with self-directing. It not only allows you to work with invest in what you know, but also whom you know. The person on this call could be someone that you're doing a deal with, or someone in your local REIA sitting next to you can be your next business partner or your next person that you look to JV with. So I usually tell investors, you want to lean into using your circle of influence or your network to do deals. So when it comes to buying real estate in an IRA, whether it's a rental property, it's a flip project, or it's vacant land, there's some things to be mindful of. First and foremost, know that the property itself is purchased in the name of the IRA. So in this example, it's going to be Advanta IRA FBO, which is for benefit of John Smith, his IRA account number 123. If the IRA is the only party involved in a deal, then all of the funds to purchase that property would actually come from the IRA, but also too, all of the income generated from that investment will flow back into the IRA. Be mindful of, again, the IRA can partner with yourself or any other investors on deal. So in that scenario, whatever the IRA puts in, the IRA gets back. And the profits from that that flows back into the IRA is tax-free or tax deferred, depending on the type of account. When it comes to actually covering or paying for paying bills or covering the related expenses for any investment, Advanta, as the administrator, as the record keeper, will actually be able to handle it on behalf of your IRA. You would simply just submit a copy of an invoice with us. You will have access to an online portal, so you can log in and upload that invoice, and we would typically get that taken care of for you the same business day or at least the following business day. We're well known in the industry to be very responsive, and a lot of our clients appreciate that. You don't have to have a property manager for your rental properties or any investment that you're doing, but if you do, in this scenario, the property manager will take care, collect the rents and pay any related expenses, and then of course, send the difference to Advanta to be deposited into your account. Anytime money's deposited into your account, you do get an email notification of that. But also, again, you have access to an online portal with us where you can log in at any time to view your statements and view those transactions. So when it comes to actually, maintaining the property or repairing, just know that the IRS again has some, rules to be mindful of. You can't put any sweat equity. If you're the actual account owner, you can't put any sweat equity. You can't, be the one that's, painting or raising the hammer and doing the work. You can oversee the project. You get to decide what needs to get done, but you can't put any sweat equity. I typically tell clients, if you know the rules, you want to follow it. As simple as driving. If the light says red, you stop. If it says green, you go. You can drive from East Coast to West Coast. You can take as many different paths to get there, but there's some driving rules you have to adhere to. Same thing applies with self-directing. You have a lot of leeway, but you just want to make sure that you adhere to the rules. So again, you can't do any of the work. None of your disqualified parties can do any of the work. None of your disqualified persons can do any of the work. You would have to hire it out to a third party. So we'll take a look at a couple case studies, just to kind of give you what it would actually look like start to finish. In the first case study, we're going to talk about doing a fix and flip in your IRA. So in this scenario, we have John Smith. He has an old 401k. He's going to take $150,000 to go out and purchase a property that's, that's in his neighborhood. So obviously he has a good understanding of the area. He lives there. He found an opportunity to purchase a property. He's going to fix it up and flip it. John understands that if he's going to be using funds from his IRA, then he knows that all of the income that's going to be generated must flow back into the IRA. If there's any expenses associated with it, in this case, it's a fix and flip. So that means he's going to be paying contractors. It's going to be paid out of the IRA based on his direction. And of course, Advanta will receive the deposit of those funds into his account, pay any bills based on him, telling us to do so. The process with us is pretty straightforward. First and foremost, John's going to go and open and fund his Advanta account. We'll walk him through that. It's pretty streamlined. Advanta, we don't have a list of investments for clients to choose from. So in this case, John goes out and finds the property. He goes, pretty much walking his neighborhood, door knocking, found the property. He's going to put in an offer to purchase that property, not in his personal name or not in his business name, but actually in the name of his IRA. And then of course, again, he gets to decide what needs to get done. He's going to, work with his contractor to realistically determine how much work is needed on the property. In this case, he decides it's $50,000 that needs to go to get the property up to market ready. And then he's going to work with his Advanta account manager to fill out the appropriate purchase authorization forms. He's going to read and approve. Nothing happens until John says it does, meaning no money leave his account. So he's going to read and approve everything. Once he does that, Advanta will work with John's preferred closing agent or closing attorney to make sure all of the documents are properly vested and titled in the name of his IRA. Advanta, as the administrator, as the custodian, signs those documents on behalf of the IRA. And then, of course, you're going to wire the funds out to that closing agent. And because Advanta is the record keeper, we're going to hold all of the supporting documents or deeds for that property. And then, of course, based on John's direction, pay the contract or any other related expenses for the property. So just to recap, John decided he wanted to do a fix and flip. He found a property for $100,000. He purchased it in his IRA. He put in $50,000 to get it to repair it. Advanta will pay those expenses from using the funds from John's IRA based on his direction. Once the property is fixed up and ready to sell, he sold it for $200,000. So that means $50,000 profit went back into his retirement account tax-free. Now John has the ability to pretty much rinse and repeat and do another fix and flip opportunity, or maybe he looks to partner with someone that's part of his local RIA group and do a joint venture, which leads me into my second case study, which is partnering on real estate deals. So in this scenario, we have Paul and Linda. They're part of a RIA group. They come to meetups like this, and they understand that they both have an interest in real estate. They're comfortable with each other. They both want to partner their IRA to buy real estate. In this case, they both have $100,000 in their respective IRAs. It's their responsibility to go out and find property. So they found the property for $150,000. They decided it only needs about $20,000 to get it rent ready. They understand the local rental market and feel comfortable that they can get $1,500 in rent, which will flow back into their respective IRAs. So the process for Paul and Linda, first and foremost, they will go and open and fund their Advanta IRA account. They're going to find the investment. In this case, whether they're working with a wholesaler or working with a realtor or driving for dollars, they found the property. They put in an offer to purchase that property in both of their IRAs. And then, of course, they work with their assigned account manager at Advanta to fill out the necessary paperwork. In this case, it's the purchase authorization. They read and approve everything. Advanta, as the administrator, works with their closing agent to make sure, again, all of the, dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure all of the paperwork are in good standing. And then, of course, sign those documents on behalf of the IRA, and then wire the funds of $150,000 out of Paul and Linda's account to make that purchase. Advanta will receive and store all of the closing documents, and then, of course, pay any of the related expense. In this case, they do have some repairs of $20,000, so Advanta will be sending the funds as needed. And of course, for the rental, Advanta will receive those rental checks and deposit it into Paul and Linda's account. Something to keep in mind in terms of special consideration, the deed will actually be titled as tenants in common because, again, both Paul and Linda's IRAs are partners on this deal. So it'll be Advanta IRA FBO, which is for benefit of, Paul's IRA account number as to 50% interest, and then Advanta IRA FBO, which is for benefit of Linda's IRA account number for the remaining 50% interest. The percentage of ownership is strictly based on the amount that each IRA contributed. In this case, it's an even 50-50 split. If it was 60-40, then obviously that would be how it would be recorded with us. So each IRA will share in both the income and the related expenses based on percentage of ownership. In this scenario, Paul and Linda are not considered disqualified persons to each other. So let's just say, Linda wanted to sell for whatever reason. In that scenario, she can sell her percentage to Paul's IRA. But if they were husband and wife or they were considered disqualified person, then the percentage of ownership would have to remain 50-50. They cannot change it for the life of that investment. So moving on to the third and final case study is using checkbook control. Sometimes you might hear it referred to as an LLC IRA. Very simply, checkbook control just simply means that your IRA actually gets to own an LLC. You can act as manager, or you can have a third party act as manager. But as the manager, you have the authority to write a check, pay a bill, sign a contract on behalf of your IRA. So in this case, we have Joe. He's going to go through the process of opening up his account, funding his account. We'll walk him through that. We can get his account set up within 24 to 48 business hours. Advanta, we don't assist with setting up the LLC. We can certainly guide him through the steps to do it, but Joe would have to be responsible for setting it up himself, or obviously working with his CPA or attorney to best set up that entity. But essentially, Joe gets to choose which state he wants to open up the LLC. He gets to decide what he wants to name the LLC. It's going to be manager managed. It's very important. So you're not using an existing LLC. You're not using one of your current or previous LLCs. It has to be a brand new LLC that's manager managed. And then also you're going to draft an operating agreement document. That operating agreement document is going to show that the IRA is the actual owner of that LLC. That lets the IRS know, hey, when this LLC goes out and buy that triplex or duplex or quad, and you fix it up and you sell it, don't come after, sorry. Sorry about that. Don't come after Joe personally because I don't know what happened. Don't come after Joe personally because Joe doesn't own it. It's actually owned by his IRA, which is tax sheltered. Advanta, as the administrator, signs the operating agreement on behalf of the IRA. Ultimately, again, Joe's always in control. No money leave his account until he says he does. It does. So he will read and approve, give his consent. Once he does, Advanta will issue a check. We can send it electronically, but in this scenario, we'll issue a check. My apologies, I don't know what happened. So Advanta will issue a check in the name of Joe's LLC. So let's just say it's Blue Sky LLC. Give that check to Joe. Joe gets to go to whatever bank he wants to bank with. So if he has an existing relationship with a big bank, small bank, credit union, he's going to open up a brand new checking account. Again, he's not putting this into his personal account. He's not putting this into his existing business account. He's going to open up a brand new checking account for the LLC that's owned by the IRA, deposit those funds, and now he literally has Checkbook. My apologies. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know if it's pollen or what, but Joe literally has checkbook control. So he controls the purse strings. So instead of having Advanta send the money to the closing agent or closing attorney or pay a contractor, Joe has the authority to do it because he literally controls the funds. Same rules apply. You know, any money leaving that account is for his retirement. Any money coming back in is from the returns of the investment. So he can submit an offer to purchase a property in the name of the LLC. He can sign all the closing documents and send the funds where it needs to go. And then, of course, moving forward, if it's a rental property, the tenants will send the rental check back to Joe to be deposited into that LLC's bank account. If there's any expenses related with that investment, so let's just say you got to pay a contract, you got to pay property taxes, you got to pay insurance, Joe will actually pay it outside of the out from the LLC's bank account. A few things to keep in mind. Again, you own your retirement account, you control it, but you can't personally guarantee. It's its own separate person, so you still can't go out and get a line of credit. Like a lot of times when you open up a bank account, the bank may extend credit. You don't want to do that. You can get a debit card, you can get checks, hence checkbook control, but do not get a credit card for the bank account that's associated with your LLC that's owned by your IRA. Okay, so again, just remember the IRA owns the LLC. You get to act as manager. As manager, you can sign that contract, put it on offer, sign the contract, make payments, pay any bills related to the LLC investment. So that pretty much wraps up my presentation. But before I do, I just want to kind of highlight in terms of, again, Advanta, we do a lot of educational events. We do weekly webinars. We do Pitch, Promote, Prosper. It's a live online networking event. Great investors, a great group. We have blogs, we have podcasts. Definitely feel free to check out our content on AdvantaIRA.com. The process with us is pretty straightforward. Whether you're an individual investor looking to get started to open up your account, or you're an investment provider like a syndicator, Advanta, we could definitely help you or your clients. Very simple. First and foremost, you would open up the account, fill out the paperwork. You can do that electronically with us. We do pair you up with a dedicated account manager. If you're an investment provider, we pair all of your clients with one dedicated account manager, so it really helps streamline the process. You get to build up a rapport. That account manager will learn, you how you like to operate. And we're pretty flexible in terms of as long as we're in compliance with what we need to do, we can work with you. And then, of course, step 2 is funding the account, whether you're using a combination of making an annual cash contribution or transferring from an existing IRA and or rolling over from a former employer plan. And then finally, step 3, what is it that you have an interest in? If you're actively investing in real estate now, well, you can use that existing skill set and replicate that in your retirement account. Whether you're looking to JV on a deal or you're just passive investing in, a small, syndication project, the sky is really the limit for you when it comes to self-directing. And with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Oh, Matthew, this Cinto.
Hey, Reneika, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And Larry, thank you for always hosting. Just a couple of real quick questions. One, I think you may have answered it. I was trying to take notes as fast as possible. So my wife, she's going to a different place of employment. So now's the opportunity to either roll over that 401k or just cash it out. We decided to roll it over, but I was advised by one of my lawyers that, hey, I own a C Corp and I can actually have my own 401k. That's technically a new employer. So could I use that 401k that's my wife's and roll it over into a self-directed IRA?
It'll be your wife's IRA, but yes, you can move. She can do a direct rollover of her old 401k into an IRA and then look to self-direct IRAs or individual retirement account. It's not uncommon for spouses to work together to open the account, but it's the actual account owners. In this case, it'll be your wife's account. But yeah, she can certainly do that for you if you have a corporation where whether you have a W-2 and also a side job, or you just have your own business, you can certainly do a solo 401k for yourself as well.
And then Advanta would be like the servicer.
Yeah, so we'll act as the custodian, as the administrator, the record keeper for your account.
Okay, and thank you so much. And then my second and last question is, so you know how you talked about disqualified persons and certain people that cannot do transactions. So what if they're not, so I can't do transactions with my spouse, right? Or whatever, my wife would be considered, my spouse would be considered a disqualified person. But what if it's not my wife? What if it's an entity?
So if it's an entity that you own or control, then no, you just want to make sure that your IRA is not on the opposite side of the table of a disqualified person, whether it's your wife or an entity that you own or control, meaning you have controlling interest or you have influence. If it's your cousin, your brother, your sister, you can certainly do transactions with them. You still want to make sure it's at fair market value. So meaning, you have a sister, your IRA can lend money to them, but you want to make sure it's not at 0%, because at that point, you're just being a good brother and your IRA is not really benefiting. What you don't want to do, not that you don't want to lend the money to your sister and have your sister turn around and lend it to your wife, because the IRS is going to look and say, hey, what was your intent? Was your intent always to get the money to your wife? You can certainly.
That's funny you mentioned that last part. So you're saying, so we definitely know it's not we can't have the spouse, but I wasn't clear. You say it can't be either a spouse's entity either?
An entity that you own or control. If it's an entity that you have no control over, no influence in, then yes, your IRA can lend money to, Blue Sky LLC, and Blue Sky LLC goes out and buy, a small apartment complex. As long as you don't own Blue Sky LLC, or your wife doesn't own Blue Sky LLC, or you have a controlling interest of that LLC.
Okay, because we're owning like a fix and flip, and for future fix and flips, when you say like GCs and other vendors can't do work, that the same rule applies for if my spouse owns a roofing company, that we can't do business with them either.
Yeah, so you can outsource this to a third party, or if your brother or your cousin owns a roofing company, then you can hire them at fair market value to do the work. But if your wife owns that roofing company, then no, you can't use it because you're self-dealing. You want to make sure that you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're most certainly welcome. You own your retirement account, but it's for later use, and the IRS don't want you benefiting from it today. So those are just a few restrictions that's in place.
Freaking IRS. All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. I see someone, Matt, has his hand up.
Yeah, but hold on. Before Matt, hold on a second, because I saw Kenneth Hines had a question to put in the chat before. Is GC project management, or maybe the same question that Cento asked, is GC project management considered sweat equity? What do you mean by that, Kenneth?
I mean, like, I understand, like, you can't actually be physically doing the work, but saying you're doing a rehab, and if you're acting sort of like a GC and have a bunch of subs and like doing like the scheduling, doing like, I don't know, even purchasing material, stuff like that, are you adding sweat equity even if you're not doing actual work, but you're deconflicting contractors, doing all the scheduling, doing all that? Is that considered sweat equity as well?
Based on what you just said, no, that's not considered technically sweat equity. If you're, hiring the person, obviously you have complete control of it, or you're telling them what's need to get done. No, that's not considered sweat equity. Sweat equity meaning is if you're in there with your contractors and actually, tearing down walls and so forth, or you're mowing the lawn on a rental property that's owned by your IRA, that's considered sweat equity. But in that scenario where you're just overseeing, or you're, purchasing whatever it needs to be purchased at Home Depot, no, that's not technically considered sweat equity.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right, Matt, go ahead, Matt. Thank you, Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, thanks, Reneika. I have a couple of questions. If I have a self-directed IRA with Advanta, can I also still invest in stocks and mutual funds?
You can through the checkbook control feature. So directly, so there's two ways. You can make investments directly through the IRA. If you're making it directly through the IRA, meaning telling Advanta to send the money where it needs to go, then no, because we only hold alternative assets. But one of the flexibilities or features why people like Checkbook Control or investors like Checkbook Control is it gives you that greater flexibility. In addition to controlling the purse string, you can literally have your IRA on an LLC that you manage. And then within that LLC, you can go out and open up a brokerage account to be in the stock market, but you can also use that LLC to go out and buy 123 Main Street if you want to. So you're doing it indirectly.
Okay. All right, great. And my last question is, I heard somewhere that they're trying to get rid of the checkbook functionality. Is that true?
So last year, there were some proposed changes to self-directing or retirement accounts as a whole, but the industry kind of rallied around, and everyone, investors, local investors, reached out to their local representative, and they heard our voice. Advanta was very active in pushing back. Checkbook Control was one of the many things that was, that they were trying to, kind of take away, but because they took so much flack for it, it's no longer, on the table. We don't know with, politics, they can always try to come back and revisit, but I'm pretty confident that the space is continuing to grow, and investors, hey, hands off my IRA, are going to continue to push back. So right now it's still, it's still readily available for you to actively use the Checkbook Control strategy.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Carrie, yeah, Carrie.
Well, I got a couple of comments and some questions. So just to follow up with Matt, I was under the same impression, and then when I did some research, it turned out is that the law did not pass, but there was a court case that came out and ruled that the checkbook, self-directed IRA checkbook, they disqualified an individual and disqualified their investments based upon that. So while it's legal, there is a question mark still long-term whether or not it could be converted. So that's just happened probably within the last 90 days. So that's just building on what Matt said. And then my other question, well, that was a statement. The other question was the transfer from the 401k that Cinto was talking about. I'm guessing that your company also does the 401k program, correct? You do the solo 401k program, right?
Yes, we do offer solo 401ks for clients. And then to circle back to your do you recall which court case? Because I know the Mcnulty court case last year, that was specific. That was very specific to precious metals. So when it comes to
but on the case, the way the ruling was is that because they had control of the money, that they had control
of the metal, the actual metal. So that's different with a rental property or. So typically, if you buy precious metals, you have to have like a third party, like a depository. I personally have precious metals in my IRA, and it's stored at a depository. In this particular instance, the Mcnulty's, they have checkbook control. It's perfectly fine. What they did that was incorrect was they actually took personal receipt of the metal and stored it in their personal residence as opposed to having a depository safeguarded. So that was the main issue. In terms of the checkbook control strategy, it's still very much available.
It's just subject to change in the future.
Yes, like any other law that possibly.
True. So on the other statement that Cinto asked about transferring his stuff to an IRA, he really should look at transferring it to the solo 401k or something that's like that, because it eliminates not the UBIT, UDFI, right?
Yes.
So that's really what Cintos should do. So my question that kind of is surrounding that is, if I already have a Roth, self-directed Roth, or just a Roth IRA that's not in a self-directed, can I get that transferred to a 401k or a 401k program that I have?
So great question. So one of the few quirks, and these are like one of the few nuances, you can certainly have a solo 401k. Advanta 401k has a Roth component. Unfortunately, this is not an Advanta rule. This is IRS straight standard. You cannot move a Roth IRA into a solo 401k. You can move your traditional IRA or tax deferred funds into a solo 401k and then convert it into a Roth component. But unfortunately, the one few restriction is you can't move a Roth IRA into a 401k. To go back to Cinto's, yes, if he has a company, or whether he has a C Corp or he has a business set up, or he's 1099, he can certainly open up a solo 401k.
That would be better for him. And then the other thing that you made a comment on, I wanted to clarify, was the property manager. I think you said that you could be your own property manager, but isn't that
Yeah.
equity, sweat equity? I was told by my custodian that I could not be a property manager.
No, you don't have to have a property manager. If you have a property manager, then that property manager will be responsible for paying the expenses. And the main thing to keep in mind is with sweat equity is like, okay, short-term rentals, that's a lot of activity in there. So it's probable, it's more likely that you can do some type of sweat equity in a short-term rental than you would in a traditional rental, just because you have to come in and have cleaners, but you can hire all of that out, or hire an actual property management company that's going to be able to, oversee everything related to it. So I may have, I don't know, I was talking too fast or what, but you can certainly hire a property manager. Or if you don't have a property manager, then you're responsible for making sure if there's a plumber that needs to come out and fix something, or a contractor, you have to hire them, decide who you want to do the work.
Okay, so the main thing is that I do not have to have a property manager. That's the
you don't have to have one. It's not required.
Wow, that's a huge advantage then, if that's the case, if that's what I want to do. Okay, I think that you've answered mine.
Great questions. I think, Cinto, you still have your hand up. You have any other questions for me?
Yeah, okay. So Advanta, you guys do IRAs. You guys also do 401ks as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Before I asked you, I was trying to look it on the website. There's some sort of ambiguity here. Okay, so if I wanted to do a self-directed 401k, which I guess now is the fancy marketing term is an EQRP. Do you guys do EQRPs?
So it's a solo 401k. So the term self-directed just simply means that you're choosing the investment that works best for you. So when you go to the IRS.gov website, you see nothing that says self-directed. You see traditional IRA, Roth IRA, individual 401k.
Solo.
So yeah, solo. So the account type with us is the same thing. So whether it's, an IRA or an individual 401k, you're just, the industry is just tagging self-directed in front of it just to differentiate from the traditional market. So essentially the QRP is like a solo 401k plan.
Oh, well, that helps, because I literally went to the IRS website. I'm like, what is this? So, okay, so those terms are interchangeable. Solo and self-directed are interchangeable.
Well, no. Solo and individual, solo 401k or individual 401k. Self-directed, whether it's a traditional IRA or it's an ESA or an HSA, sometimes you may hear it referred to as a real estate IRA. That just means you're investing in real estate. Self-directed just means that you're choosing the investment. But when you go to the IRS website, the account type, whether you're with Advanta or you're with a Charles Schwab or Fidelity, you either have a traditional IRA or you have a Roth IRA, tax-free, or tax deferred or after tax.
So the EQRP would fall under, as far as IRS goes, it would fall under
like employer sponsored plan, like 401ks.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, President. Two more questions, okay? First, hold on, Carrie. Kayanne, you got a question?
Yes, I do. And thank you also, Reneika. Great information shared. So my question is in regards to the LLC. Can it be an anonymous LLC, or does it have to be registered with the state that you're in? I don't know.
You don't have to do it in your state. You can certainly, it's easier to do it in your state because that's where you reside, but you can do it in whichever state you choose to. You get to decide what you want to name that LLC. But the actual, anonymity is based on whatever the local laws is to that state in terms of setting up an entity. So It can be a trust, it can do an LLC, it can be.
Okay, awesome. And the second question is, why is it that you say don't get a credit card in the LLC that's owned by the three?
So you own your retirement account, you control it, but it is like its own separate person. It's for later, for when you retire. So you technically can't guarantee something that's supposed to be its own separate person. When you open up, like if you do checkbook control and you open up a bank account, most times the bank may extend credit. You can get a checkbook, you can hence checkbook control, you can get a debit card to go with that, to attach to that bank account, but you cannot get a credit card. Like that's the reason why if you wanted to buy, real estate using loans, using leverage, you can't go and get a traditional, traditional loan. You would have to specifically look for a non-recourse. And there's lenders out there that simply offer non-recourse loan. They're not looking at you as an individual. They're not looking at your personal credit or anything. They're just literally looking at that real estate asset or that investment.
So I have another question, and bear with me, right? Learning a lot as I'm in this field. So if, for example, there are accounts, debit accounts that businesses can open that allows them to report transactions to build credit. So if this LLC that's owned by the IRA has a business debit transaction card that allows it to have some type of credit history eventually over time with Duns and Brads and NAV and whatever, where now that entity can now qualify for a credit card without any PGing, is that still possible or is it still looked down upon?
Again, you can't extend any type of line of credit where you're personally having to sign or guarantee. Like if it's if the credit that's being extended is considered non-recourse, yes. But if it's something that requires some type of guarantee,
no guarantee. There would be no guarantee. It would be solo the business that's earned that credit, nothing pertaining to me.
Yeah, I would just say double check with the verbiage, like in the disclosures, making sure there's no guarantee, it's non-recourse. Then if it is in that scenario, then yes. If it's not, then you want to kind of circle back with your legal team on that.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Lawrence, you're muted.
We got 3 questions, the last 3 questions, because I know Reneika has things to do. She has no life, right? We don't hold her up too long. So Carrie, go ahead, Carrie.
Great question.
A couple of questions again, sorry. Have you ever, are you aware if you can do a Heloc in a self-directed IRA?
I've had people inquire about it, but with a Heloc, you're taking out a loan on the actual asset. So there may be, as long as you're not personally guaranteeing it and that lender is just looking at a property that's owned by the retirement account, then possibly. I've never worked with a specific lender that offer that product, but you want to, if you find out, it is possible if you're just looking at that actual tangible real estate.
Okay, that would be huge if we could. And then can you switch custodians? Can you go from one self-directed custodian to another self-directed?
Yeah.
And can you transfer assets? Because before you said you could only transfer cash. So can you transfer assets?
Absolutely, you can. So in that scenario, if it's in your case, you have a self-directed account with, you have real estate holding or tangible assets, it'll be considered an in-kind transfer. Depending on the type of asset you have, it may require some retitling. Let's just say you have an LLC in your existing self-directed account. You would just simply update the operating agreement to show now it's, your account with Advanta, as the owner of that LLC as opposed to the previous custodian. If you have 123 Main Street, no entity or anything like that, you just probably have to, update and do the retitling. If it's a note, you just retitle a note to show that it's actually now with this particular custodian. But yes, you can actually transfer. The reason I mention cash is most times people have, traditional stocks and bonds type IRAs that they're moving over. So in that scenario, they have to liquidate. In your scenario, if you have existing alternative assets in a retirement account, you don't have to liquidate. You can just do an in-kind transfer of that asset.
Okay, and then my last questions: are your fees based upon asset values, or is it a flat fee? How does your firm charge?
So we give you an option. We don't charge any commission. You have option 1 with us is a flat administrative fee, and then option 2 is value based. So I tell clients, depending on what type of assets you have in your account, it may vary. So for instance, there's a one-time fee of $50, to open up your account with us. If you have an LLC, that's a $295 annual fee to do all of the record keeping to maintain that account with us. If you do real estate, meaning there's no entity, and then with the LLC, just keep in mind, you can have as many assets in there and not be paying us a transaction fee. If you don't have an LLC, you're just making it directly in the IRA. Option 1 is a flat, per asset. Option 2 is value-based. So let's just say you have an account that's $500,000. Well, you can have 50 investments and just be paying a flat fee based on the value of the account. Or option 1 is if you have 2 properties and you're paying, an annual fee based on per asset. So.
Thank you, Carrie. Go ahead, Lee. How you doing, man?
What's up, brother?
It's all good.
I'm just looking at, we got a number of schemers on the call today, huh? I love the different scenarios, the questions about what if, like Cintos was going, but I always bother him just a little bit. Reneika, can you help me to understand this one? Can you compare and contrast the QRP to the self-directed IRA? I read the book by Damien Lippo, where he talks about some of the different advantages of the QRP versus the self-directed IRA, in particular, when it comes to real estate syndications, and those real estate syndications, because they're using leverage, you have to worry about UDFI. I don't think most people who are doing what we're doing would have to worry about UBIT, but UDFI is something that we have to concern ourselves with when the property sells. And then I have a follow-on question to that is, when does the LLC have to file a tax return to record that increase in the asset when it sells? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Great question. First and foremost, the LLC actually don't file any taxes. You make sure you maintain the LLC to keep it up to date with whatever state that you're in. But what you will do is fill out what's called an FMV, a fair market value form. You relate it back to us at Advanta, and we actually report that to the IRS on the back end. So let's just say you have a property in there, 123 Main Street. What's the tax assessed value of that property? What's the appraised value? You fill out that FMV form, and then we actually report it. So you're not actually filing any taxes on that LLC. It's considered a disregarded entity. And then to go back to your first question in terms of comparing.
Could I pause you there?
I'm sorry?
Could I pause you there? My scenario is I'm investing through the self-directed into a syndication. So determining what the fair market value is going to be difficult, right? Because every year they don't really go and appraise it. They might appraise it in year 3 when they do a refinance. And of course, you're going to get the value of that asset when it sells. But since I couldn't, determine what the fair market value is, all that I can do from a syndication perspective is report the cash flows, and I can report the income when the property is sold, and that's going to show me value, right? But that's not going to take into the fact that let's just say they purchased the asset at $40 million, and when they sold the asset, it was sold at $60 million, right? I believe UDFI kicks in on the portion of that was levered, right? And the gains from the portion that was levered, right? So, my custodian told me, hey, I don't have to file a tax return because it's a disregarded entity. But I'm like asking myself, at that point, when does UDFI ever kick in?
So for any tax related question, this is definitely where you want to have that conversation with your CPA, but the fair market value that is required on an annual basis. You can, I'm not advocating it, but you can have a third party company do the valuation on whatever asset, if it's a hard to value asset, or if you feel comfortable doing it yourself. I've done fair market value on some things that I own in my retirement account. Or you can work whoever the syndicator is to have them, give you a best estimate of what the value is on that account. Yes, depending on, so not UDFI, but UBIT, depending on if it's if you're a passive investor and how are they sending the funds back to you. But that's a different question. I don't want to get down that rabbit hole. But it just in your scenario, you're not filing any taxes on that LLC. It's a disregarded entity. Your custodian's correct. You will have to, on a yearly basis, though, do report, the FMV form. And
No, that's what I have been doing. It just, I'm trying to ask myself the question of, well, when does UDFI ever kick in if I'm just reporting fair market value of the assets that the LLC owns?
So UDFI, UBIT, if you're, I think everyone should get a copy of the slide. So if your annual value is above, or the income that you generate is above 1,000, then that's when you fill out the 990T form. If it's less, then you don't have to fill it out. But again, this is where you want to have a CPA that's familiar with possibly having to complete UDFI.
I've had mine for 5 years, and there are certain CPAs who they don't understand the law around the self-directed IRA. And I have had 2 or 3 CPAs who refuse to even really have this conversation because they didn't want to provide guidance and direction in this area. I haven't found a CPA as yet. Maybe you might be able to make a referral, but I haven't found a CPA yet who is really well-versed in the law around these self-directed IRAs and will be able to really provide you guidance. And also, since the case law is somewhat fluid with the self-directed IRAs, it's hard to get advice.
And that's not uncommon to, have, professionals in a certain space that may not, it may not be their area of expertise. I'm going to put my contact information back in the chat once more. You're definitely able to reach out to me. I will provide you a list of, I know CPAs that are very familiar with the self-directing space, but also too, I can provide you a comprehensive list of non-recourse lenders that's nationwide. Advanta, again, we're not endorsing anyone particular. We're going to give you enough to where you can call and do your due diligence to see if, that's someone that you want to work with, but I can provide you a resource for that.
No, thank you very much.
My pleasure. I know you had a question at the very beginning in terms of comparing. We don't do QRP, but we do solo 401ks. So IRAs are individual retirement accounts, solo 401ks if you have, a side business, small business, or, you're a business owner. The QRP is very similar to the solo 401k, and that is not subject to UDFI tax. UBIT still applies, unrelated business still apply. But the solo 401k is essentially very much like the QRP. It's just the terminology in terms of what it's called, but Advanta does offer solo 401ks.
The thing that I have with that is whenever you create a retirement plan against the business, I would have to assume that there are going to be certain annual fees that are necessary in order to maintain that retirement plan for the entity. And those expenses, I would believe, would be far more than managing a self-directed IRA.
So it's just based on your personal preference of what is it that you need. An IRA, we do have, we offer 3 types of solo 401ks. We have a do-it-yourself plan where you're literally just, in order to have a solo 401k, you have to have an IRS approved plan document. You're literally just leasing that plan document. If there's ever any update, like a reinstatement, which the IRS does every 5 to 6 years, Advanta is responsible for updating that for you, but it's cost effective in that, it's a $300 a year for your solo 401k. IRAs, again, you have flexibility with that. So it's just, what is it that you need? That's a conversation. We can do a one-on-one. I mean, if it's whoever, we can do a one-on-one to talk through your scenario or talk with your CPA, as long as they're, understanding in terms of the tax advantages of what you're looking to do, then you can determine if it's, an IRA that you need at this point, or if you have your own business and have income from that business to do a solo 401k or a SEP or simple.
It was just the UDFI and the ability to take out loans against the retirement plan. Those would to me be the only advantages of it. But, you know, so far, you know, having worked with the self-directed IRA, I'm still debating, but I'm also still reading the book, and we'll follow up with you. I just sent you a LinkedIn request as well. So thank you for your knowledge. I'm not going to say that it was advice, because then I might have you legally constrained to something.
Yeah, I'm quick to say, no, it's not advice.
Thank you for recognizing, Lee. Thank you for recognizing.
No. I've been down this road. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. Devorah, go ahead, Devorah.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yes, I sure can.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for all the information. It's a little overwhelming because this is very new to me, but I have two quick questions. Can a traditional TSP be converted to a self-directed IRA while I'm still employed? And the second question, okay.
Go ahead with your second question.
Just wanted to put it out there. And if so, can I invest in real estate overseas?
So if you're currently employed and you're not 59 and a half, most times that employer will tell you no. You can certainly reach out to your plan administrator and ask them if they can make an exception. But if you're currently employed, not 59 and a half, most times it's no, you cannot move it. If it's a former employer plan, you can move it at will at your discretion. Let's just say you have an old 401k that's rolled over into your new current employer plan. Well, you can move that portion that was from the previous employer and certainly self-direct, or you can, again, fund your account by making an annual contribution. So in your case with a TSP, if you're over 59 and a half, yes, you can move it. If you're not, you may want to check with them, but most times it's usually no. In terms of investing, yes, with an IRA account or self-directed retirement account, whether it's IRA, 401k, you can absolutely invest international overseas. We have clients that invest in Spain, Portugal, Cayman Islands, South America. So yes, you can.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
And I am over 59 and a half, so that's a good thing.
So yeah, reach out to them and ask them, you know, even if it's just a portion of your account.
Okay, would your company be able to do that?
So when it's an employer status situation, a direct rollover, you would actually have to initiate that request. So the first part, you want to find out from your plan administrator, you know, if you're able to move, yes. If they say yes, then you would actually say, hey, you're not taking a personal distribution. You want to move a portion from, you know, your account with them over into another qualified retirement account, meaning there's no tax liabilities for you to do that. So in that scenario, you would actually have to initiate that.
Okay. Okay. All right.
But yeah, feel free to you know, reach out to me, and then we can go through step 1, step 2, step 3, make it as simple as possible for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Well, I want to thank Reneika again for coming tonight, and thank you all the questions. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and appreciate once again Reneika coming in to give us a mound of information. And if you have signed up through Meetup, we will be sending you out the slide deck so you can go through it at your own pace. Also take Reneika's number. She put information in chat. Please take it. Don't file it. Use it. All right. Once again, thank you for coming out tonight to Financial Independence through Small Multifamily Investing.